Hello again, everyone. This is Gilmer, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. This is going to be a video of something that's upcoming, uh, a game that's in development. And as you can see up on the screen, it says pre alpha battle gameplay. And this game is Grand Tactician, the American Civil War, open parentheses, 1861 1865, close parentheses. And I've been watching some of the video of this game in the alpha stage, and let me just preface this by saying, one, I asked permission of the game developer if I can use video that they have on YouTube to do an upcoming video of their game, and they agreed and said that was fine. I could use any YouTube video and anything on their actual website. And my second point is this game is in alpha, and they do that disclaimer on just about every video, or probably every video, saying that some of this can change. And so it's in alpha and it looks pretty polished. But as we all know, a game can be in alpha, and a developer can show you the polished parts, and it can look amazing, and then the game not be that good. But I don't think that's going to be the case in this situation, because I think this game is going to be really good. And it takes a look at the Civil War that I don't necessarily know that I've ever played a game that does what this does. I've played the Asia games, and in the Asia games, you can build units. You do have an economy. You do gain a certain amount of money each turn. You can increase taxes. You can print bonds to get money and then build units. But this game is going to actually have something of an in-depth economy, and there are going to be actual multiple different commodities in the economy that you can produce and then buy or sell depending on your needs. And I saw the list of the commodities, and it was at least 20 items that you could produce, and some of those items could be combined to make other items. And some of what I'm thinking of is, and I'm hope I'm not conflating this game with the 7 Years War game that the same producer or same game developer made, but I'm pretty sure you can take some of the commodities, send them to a company or a manufacturing factory, and produce even more commodities from those separate components going into the finished product. So it seems like it's going to be a very intricate economy. And so also some of the other things is there are politics are going to be in this game. And one of the things that really caught my eye really to begin with is the actual maps that they use, and the strategic maps and tactical maps. It seems like you can zoom in from strategic all the way down to tactical maps. I'm not really sure if the battle maps can be done that way as well, but it's all seems very seamless, and there are opportunities from what I can tell, such as, if you're familiar with the Civil War at all, the first battle of Bull Run or the first battle of Manassas. And I heard History Gaming Guy talk about the way battles were named during the Civil War. One side named it after the river that's close by, which was Bull Run, and the other side names it after the city, which is Manassas. So I'm not sure which was which, but anyway, that first battle of Bull Run, if you're familiar with history of the Civil War at all, you know that McDowell was coming south with his army, and I believe it was Joe Johnston was going north, and they had a battle, and McDowell was trying to roll the flank on the western side of the battle, and at the very same time, some troops were being uh, sent in by train from the west, and so a big corps or division, several divisions, came in and shored up the line, and basically, from there it was more of a kind of a Confederate victory, I guess is what you would say. I don't know the history of that battle probably as much as I should know, but it was what the situation was similar to what we talk about when we talk about March to the Sound of Guns. This developer calls it Ride to the Sound of Guns. But what it is that troops can come from outside of the battle into the battle if they're close enough, and you're actually in charge of that. So if you're starting a battle and you have troops maybe 25, 30 miles away, and they have access to railroads or even marching, they can get to that battle and actually enter that battle based on your decisions. And so some of these videos that the developer is showing they're smaller battles, but I wanted to just show some of what they're doing, because I think this is going to be a really good game. And they actually have Philippe Thibault doing a blog for them. And if you don't know who Philippe Thibault is, he used to be part of the Ajod team, and then he's gone on to other things. And so he was involved in Ajod's Civil War II and those games. So he knows a lot about the American Civil War. And something I've always I've never really thought that much about it, but it always kind of amazed me. I don't know much about the 7 Years' War, but it has fascinated me over probably the last 6 to 7 years, and I probably haven't researched it as much as I should have, considering my interest in it. But I've always been kind of fascinated how people from Europe are interested in the Civil War, the American Civil War, and I think it's probably just as, based on the fact that you have a very well-defined type war. It wasn't, there were some battles and then it kind of tapered off or anything. There was literally a first shot in the Civil War. Battles over the next 4 to 5 years were fought, and then there was a surrender. So it's very well defined. The war is very well defined in those terms. And even though the Union had a lot of the advantages, like the manufacturing advantage and some of those things, and even I think they had a pretty good advantage in the arms that they used. They were able to buy and produce better arms, better rifles that were, they were starting to move away from the musket type weapons where you have a plunger to more of a kind of a bolt action type rifle. And I think that was part of the reason why, they had such a big advantage at times. But the South, one of the things that I think that makes this kind of an interesting, and I always hate to say interesting or fun when you're talking about something like a civil war where hundreds of thousands of people died, and it was anything but fun for the people that probably, not even probably, it was anything but fun for the people that had to live through it. But if you can kind of set that to the side and look at it just purely from a war gaming aspect, this game, this American Civil War can be fun in a game setting. And I think that if you have a very competent person running the South, it's a very even conflict. If you have a very competent person on the Union side and someone not as good on the South side, it's going to be a one-sided affair. But usually people, especially a multiplayer, people of the same skill levels kind of gravitate toward one another. So when you have two people playing on a Civil War game, it's usually fairly evenly balanced. Now, one thing I will mention about this upcoming game is that there is not initially, and I noticed this in the comments of one of the videos. The developer said that initially on release there won't be multiplayer, but they will try to implement it later, which I think would be just phenomenal. And if I want to just let's let this run in the background without sound, and as you can see, this is a battle, and so you can actually grab, and you'll see him grabbing, and well, he zoomed all the way into the actual battlefield, and at this level, it has a very Total War type feeling. You have your units, you can see individual, graphic soldiers. I don't know what the scale is for the soldiers, but if you click on the commanders, it will tell you how many actual men are in their command. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if I can find something where we can see that. Maybe if we can find where they've kind of taken a look. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So as you can see here, we have General Braxton Bragg, and you can select the officer, and you can take a look at the men under him, and it says 18,584 men and 56 guns. It tells you the morale, and there is so much going on in these games. But the pace of the game is kind of, you can have it at real time, and I don't know if you can see it because it's kind of blocked by my toolbar here for YouTube, but down here you can actually speed up the game if it's going a little too fast for you, or it's during a part that's too slow and nothing's going on. You can kind of speed it up so that you're not just sitting there waiting, because it's real time. Everything is real time. Even the strategic map is real time from what I understand. So at times you're going to have nothing going on, so you'd want to speed it up at that point. But at other times when you're actually starting to have battles on the field, you'll want to slow it down in real time so you can start giving orders to your individual units. And I really like these order of battle displays that they have, where you can see Bragg, and that's him. He's the overall commander of the Army of the Mississippi. And then you have it, it's all written in cursive, and the cursive is of the style from the 1800s, and sometimes it's hard to read. The writing is very similar to what my father used to do. My father was always writing in cursive. When he wrote us, he'd write on yellow pad paper when he wrote letters, and it would be this kind of a felt tip pen, and he had a very sweeping, very dramatic type handwriting, and that's exactly what this kind of writing is. So sometimes it's hard to read, but I can see where you got Braxton Bragg. That looks like Leonidas Polks. I can't make out that name. Maybe that's Hardy. And then you got Wheeler. See, it's hard to make out. But if I was actually playing the game and maybe getting closer, but if you can't figure out the name, you can always click on that unit and it'll show it up here, and it will be in what would be Arial, probably script. So you can always figure out who's commanding what just by doing this. And some of the other things that are going on in the battle, if you look over here, this number is engineering points, and you can use the engineering points to actually build ramparts and parapets and ditches and things like that to kind of fortify the area that you're in. And it uses there's so many different things going on. And the only thing that I could see that would make this game kind of bogged down is if there is too much going on. But I don't really think, because you can delegate it. There's so many ways I think that you can give command over to the AI for certain things that you don't have to get bogged down in the details unless you want to micromanage everything. And I think that some people, some of us probably would try to micromanage because I know I probably would, because I don't want to leave anything to chance. At this point, I know that I'm a very big fan of Asia games, and Asia battles are basically you got one army here and one army there, and you get them together, and then the general of your army kind of is the one that is in the overall command. So you don't even see the individual troops, charging or shooting or anything. It's just two armies. You see a graphic, the generals and everything, and all the things are worked out mathematically. You see a little graphic about the battle, and then it tells you at the end who won the battle, how many losses, that type of thing. But in this game, you're actually as I mentioned, similar to Total War, you're actually seeing actual units. You're actually seeing them shoot. You're seeing the artillery set up and start shooting at the opposing field. So, and I've watched all of the videos underneath Grand Tactician YouTube, and this game just looks absolutely amazing. The line here, so he's playing the Confederate side at this point, and the line is what the Confederates control, the red line. So they're marching in, and they control the parts where they're marching in, and they have these stars are objectives on the map, and they all have points assigned to them. Some are worth more than others, and if you get down close enough, you'll see in the star the number 10 or the number 5 or something like that. Let's listen a little bit to him. Let's listen a bit to him. I'm sorry, I turned on the sound while I was still talking, but as you can see, if we back up just a hair, if we can see it. Okay, so as you can see, this Crawford is an objective that the South has captured because they're the red and the Union is blue, and there's a little 5 in it. That 5 is the points that you get for taking that objective, and I don't know if it's a running point level or if it's worked into some kind of whether the battle's won or not, if you have a certain amount of points or not. But as you can tell, you got a little slider up here, and it tells you how the battle is going, and right now it's going more towards the Confederate side. They're doing better in this battle, and I'd say the slider is about at 67% towards the Confederate side as opposed to the Union side. So he is winning this battle. I mean, the battle is more just to show some of the things that you can do within the battle system of the game, and he goes through a lot of it. These fences that you can see, these were built by those engineering points, and they give you some protection if you're behind them. And there's so many things. There are so many things in this that they're showing us that could be in the game. They might not, because like I said, this is pre-alpha. So some of these things might not make it into the game, but there's so many things that they must have been thinking through, all the things that people have complained about over the years. And one of them is when two units fight in the Civil War and one of them routs and they, and a bunch of them are killed or whatever, a lot of times they would leave their weapons. If you're routing, sometimes you throw in your weapon down and taking off and running as fast as you can. And if you're killed, nobody's taking your weapon, or somebody might pick it up. But usually the weapons, there are a certain amount of weapons that are captured. And in these battles, they can actually pick up those weapons and use them in the very same battle that they picked them up in. That's something that I've never seen in a game before that I can think of. I know that in Civil War Generals 2, I think you could pick up the weapons and then after the battle you could distribute them to units, but not during the actual battle. So let's turn on the sound and listen a little bit to what's going on. Um, in the comments, you can ask me questions and I'll try to answer them. As I mentioned before, I am in contact with the developers. That doesn't mean that they've made me any kind of preferred person to show their game. It's just a simple fact that I saw this game. It looks like a great game. I want to bring it to you and let you know about it. And I asked them permission to use any of their videos, and they said yes. And that's literally their involvement and my involvement between the two of us. And they were very encouraging. They said, we hope your channel does, keep bringing good content to your channel, and good luck. And yes, you're welcome to use our video. And obviously it comes along with some pre-understood, situations like me talking about this being pre-alpha and that type of stuff. I'm sure they don't want me promising things that I have no idea that will be in the game, and I'm not even saying some of the things that I see now will even be in the game. But this is what we have to work with at this point. But obviously at a later point, they might take something out because it just isn't working right, or they can't get it developed completely in time, or that sort of thing. The release of this game, the release date, and I haven't talked about this already, is supposed to be summer of 2020. I know that when they first started talking about this and releasing information about this, they had a target date of releasing it in 2019. That didn't happen, and of course they pushed it back to summer of 2020. And then of course, as we all know, with games, that they can tell you they're targeting a release date of summer 2020, and it could come after. And that's just usually a simple fact of they're trying to perfect the game. And something I guess we probably need to discuss also is, before I start this video up, of what they're showing, is they produced, or the person that's developing this, and I'll try to pronounce his name correctly, is Oliver Keppelmuller. And he, I believe, is Austrian. And so the 7 Years' War would kind of play right into him being Austrian, because Austria is part of the 7 Years' War, is one of the main protagonists of that war. So it stood to reason that they might start with a 7 Years' War. And on Steam, and I don't have the game, so I'm not trying to say I know whether this is true or not, but on Steam it's gotten mixed reviews, the 7 Years' War. But I've seen videos of the 7 Years' War, and I've seen videos, the pre-alpha videos of this, and this looks a lot more polished. I think that the 7 Years' War is probably their first, or Oliver's first developed game, and this is going to be the second, and he's learned a lot, and this is going to be a lot better. And he's certainly probably hoping so, and I'm certainly hoping so. And some of the differences between the two conflicts might help or hinder the development of this. I do think that it's easier to develop a game where there are just two people, or two groups opposed to each other, whereas in 7 Years' War you had any number of nations coming into the conflict and leaving the conflict. The 7 Years' War, as many of you probably already know, was Prussia, England, and Hanover, and a couple of other German states, versus Austria, Russia, France. And it coincided with the French and Indian War in North America, where the British actually were able to defeat the French in the French and Indian War and take most of Canada during that conflict. And in the 7 Years' War as well, Prussia and England and the German states allied with them also prevailed. And Prussia went on to form Germany with most of the German states, and Austria wasn't part of the combination of the German states into Germany. Austria stayed separate, and that was, I think, part of, it's a very, very complicated political type thing over there, and I don't want to oversimplify it or act like I know exactly what happened. But as you can see, you've got a Germany now and you've got an Austria, so in some sense that helped keep Austria from being in the newly formed nation of Germany in the 1870s, was partly because Prussia was able to keep them out. But Austria has a great history, and I'm not trying to put them down because of that. They just came out on the worst end of that situation. I'm sure I've rambled completely and probably proven myself completely ignorant of the total facts, and somebody will probably correct me. And if I did and you correct me, that's great, because I'm always open to learning. But let's listen to a little bit of the video here and see what's going on. This is the Battle of Perryville, which is an actual Civil War battle. And one of the things that I think would be nice to know is if they're able to incorporate some historical battles into the actual campaign that they're developing, because I know when I have watched videos of Azov's Civil War II, and when I've played it, people say, well, does Gettysburg happen? Well, not in the Azov game. It really isn't going to happen. Something similar might happen in the same time frame, but you're not going to have a Civil War, Gettysburg battle within the campaign. There is a separate scenario called Gettysburg, but within the campaign, you're not going to have a 75 to 80,000 man army on the north taking up positions along the hills in Gettysburg, facing off against the Confederate army coming from the south. That's just probably not going to happen unless you somehow manage to manipulate it to get it that way, but it's still probably not going to happen. So, but I'm wondering if they'll be able to do it in this game, because it sounds like they're trying to, possibly, because they do have, Gettysburg and other, they have a video out. They don't have a video out of Gettysburg, but they do have a video out of the First Bull Run to show a little bit. So I kind of think that they might try to get it to do that, where some historical battles are incorporated into the campaign, but I don't know that for a fact. So let's play a little bit of the video.
Town of Perryville, where we build all these entrenchments, and the right wing is still arriving here, so we basically need to march them and join the forces somewhere here in the middle.
So let me just explain a little bit of what's going on. So he has two armies. One's coming in from basically the where is this? It looks like basically the east, and then they also have a smaller army coming in from the northeast that is going to link up with this formation in some form or fashion. And the Union Army is coming in from the northwest, and you don't have any, well, you have a little bit of intelligence on them, but you don't know a lot, but you get more intelligence as the game goes on.
And in this game it's quite important to try to keep the distance between troops to minimum because of the order delay mechanics. So for example, now we have bragg here with Polk's wing. So if we now start to give hard east wing orders, these orders will take a lot of time because all the orders will arrive via couriers from Bethel Church all the way to Crawford area, which is, if you look at the map scale, it's at least 3 miles. So the first thing we want to do is to move Polk's corps closer to the left wing. So let's give them orders to move here.
So anyway, some more information. It looks like the Confederate Army has entered the battlefield more quickly than the Union, and so they're going to try to start setting up defensive formations on some of these hills. And I think the way you can tell that something's a hill is it's these clear spots with little spikes coming out of them. So you have like a hill here, hill formations through here and down through here. You got a river, and then you have hill formations here. And it looks like he's going to, and I've seen this video, so I know this is what he's going to do. He's going to kind of build his formations along these lines, and then when he is not really getting into contact with the Union Army yet, he's going to start moving up and trying to take positions on this hill line and take these objectives. Like I don't know what this is called, but it's between Dye and Webb. And so this map, from what I understand, these maps are hand built or hand sketched, and so they put a lot of work into these maps. I'm starting to lose my train of thought and really stumbling over my words at this point. But they hand built, hand created these maps, and they're just beautiful. I think if you look at a battle on Wikipedia, they usually have maps similar to these types of maps. Sometimes they don't, but this is a beautiful map, and it tells you all the information that you need to know if you're going to try to conduct a battle on it. You have a bridge here or a ford. You have a ford or bridge here. You have a ford or bridge here. And so you have this like central area that's kind of almost surrounded on all sides of it with a river, and then you have hills. So this is probably a pretty good defensive position if he can get to it on time, which I'm not going to show you the whole video, but they do get to this, and this is where they basically fight the battle from, and they do a pretty good job. He does a pretty good job.
For the time being, we can keep Hardy's wing waiting here, and for the upcoming battle, let me deploy them in single line from.
I just wanted to show you if we can. Well, I don't know if
the weather is.
Now here's something else, and what I was going to show you was how many troops were under Hardy, which I think it was about 11,000 men. But right here you can see that the weather is heavy rain. It's 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it gives you just a description of what that's doing to the men. Everyone is miserable. The roads and fields quickly turn into mud that makes marching exhausting and gets wagons stuck. Though smoke will not be a problem if powder remains dry. So it does take into account some of the other things, like, if you've ever watched any kind of history or movies or something like that, you've always heard something about keep your powder dry. And if your powder gets wet, your gun won't shoot, obviously. And powder in that day and age could get wet a lot. It was a very common circumstance, especially when you're in rainy conditions like this. So that's something that they also have to keep account of and understand that is something that could turn into a problem.
Quite heavy rain, as the tooltips tells us here. Everyone is miserable, the roads and fields quickly turn into mud, and it makes marching exhausting. The wagons get stuck, but the good thing is that smoke and dust will not be that big a problem because of the wet weather. But this could also mean that it takes quite a lot of time for Polk to reach the left wing here near Perryville, and during this time it is possible that Buell starts pushing forwards. And for this reason, I'm going to.
This over here is Joseph Wheeler. He is a commander of mounted troops, and so he's got him scouting over here to see if there are any Union troops on their left flank, and he doesn't run into any. I think they all come from the northwest, but even so, he uses him as kind of a scouting unit. What you have to do is detach the unit from the commanding unit so that he can be given individual type orders to go off on his own to take a look at what the terrain and if anybody's coming from this area way over here. And as you can see, there's a lot of information going on with his troops. He has 1,520 men. They are armed with an Enfield musketoon and also with sabers and pistols. I don't know if you can upgrade your weapons in the strategic campaign layer. I would think you could, because it makes a pretty big deal about being able to pick up weapons, and also they go out of their way to show you what type of weapons each unit actually is carrying. Ammunition, that's up based on a 100%, so they got 60% ammunition, I believe. And melee, they're excellent. Their cover, they have none because they're riding out in the open. They're marching. Situation, I don't know what that is, but the situation, it gives you the attributes and certain things that are affecting them at any given time. So you might, the green is good and red is bad. So something bad is affecting them at this point. But if they were under an inspiring leader, overall there would be a green indicator of having an inspiring leader leading them. There would be some other things. I've seen 4 things listed out here on one of them, and 2 of them were good and 2 of them were bad. Cohesion is intact, fatigue well rested, training regular. So it has all those conditions for the actual units. It's pretty interesting, very, very interesting, and all of that goes into how well they perform when they actually get into action.
Detach my cavalry units. First of all, Wheeler, who already has the order to move to the left flank. I shall detach him. And the other one is Wharton. Detach that unit.
So, as I was saying, situation, they have 2 green icons under situation. So he has 2 things going on with his troops that are making them work better or perform better. And I think this star means that they have an inspiring leader. I don't know what that means, but whatever it is, it's a good attribute.
And what it means to detach a unit is that it will operate independently from there on. So, for example, Wheeler's cavalry unit belongs to Hardy's wing, but if I detach him and give Hardy orders, the orders will not be carried out by Wheeler. And when we start the real-time gameplay, we can see that the orders are already flowing in from Brad.
As you can see, all of these borderline things like this, as you can see, there's like a jagged circle around with a bugle. That is how far the bugle, when they signal the bugle call, they have different bugle calls. That is how far they can hear that bugle. If they're outside of that range, then they have to have an actual messenger sent to their unit to give them orders. We see Hardy here. Earlier I was trying to show you, he has 11,235 men, guns 40, and that's actual number of guns. Ammunition 100%, cohesion good, training regular, and status is idle because they're just sitting there waiting. But you can see all the different overlays that they have. You can turn those off. I did hear him talk about how if you don't like all these overlays and like the cones, there's a cone of their firing ranges to the front of every unit. and you can turn those off if you don't like them. But that's similar to how Total War has a firing cone of the range of where they can shoot, and also, well, the arc of the where they can shoot, and also the range.
Back to the left wing.
This is what I'm talking about. So these are the cones of where they can shoot, the arc of they're able to shoot at, and also their range of shots. And something they do that I don't think Total War does is that this more orangey or more yellow orange range or cone is like short range, and then you have a medium range at some point, and then a long range. And this looks like a long range. So if a unit came into this area, these units could shoot at them, but it would be at long range, and their probability to hit would be a lot lower than if they were this close, which obviously makes sense. I mean, the closer you are, the easier it is for them to hit you. So that makes sense. It's not really done in Total War, or it probably is done in Total War. It's just that they don't show it in the graphics. It's just calculated behind the scenes. But in this game, they do show the short range and long range and all that. And you can determine how, and you can actually give your unit orders as to when to shoot. Tell them to shoot when they get into long range, tell them to wait and start shooting when they get into medium or short range. And so there are a lot of different types of commands you can give your units. You can give them a command to move somewhere, and it will be immediate. You can give them a command to move somewhere, but have a delay of 2 hours. And you can also give them a command to move somewhere, but only when you notify them to move. And if you're not in bugle range, this is all done by messengers. So everything has a lag time of the messenger going from the commander to the unit if they're not in bugle range, and it's not an easy type order to give. Because if they're in bugle range and it's an easy order to give with a bugle, like just attack, they can just say to the bugler, attack, and he'll blow the attack, and they'll attack. But if they're outside of the bugle range, they have to send a messenger, and there's a lag time for that messenger to get to that unit, tell them what to do, and for them to start actually moving. So it's like they are covering everything that you will ever run into in a battle. And I don't, honestly, in a mission, I've never played any of the real-time battle games like Ultimate General or things like that. And Scourge of War, those games, I've never played those games, so I don't know exactly how it all works in those games, and I don't want to describe a game that I've never actually played, but this is what this game is doing so far. So anyway,
it will take some time for them to actually deploy themselves to the desired formation, but it's a totally different story with Polk, who's close to.
So here you have Leonidas Polk. He has 7,349 men. He looks like a corps commander, and he is under Bragg's command. So he's an officer that reports to Bragg, and the Bragg is the leader of this army, and Polk is a corps commander, but he is a major general, MG major general. And so I think he's given a command to Polk's corps and not to Hardy, something a little different than what anybody else in Hardy's command is doing.
Receiving the orders and distributing them forwards to Cheatham.
You can hear the bugle if you listen.
And Cheatham already got his troops moving.
And just to talk about the bugle, they actually have a video of a real person that engages in these reenactments that actually did the bugle calls for this game. So that's pretty cool. They actually have somebody real doing the bugle calls, and it's not just canned. It's actually somebody I don't know if they paid him or what, but he is the one did all the bugle commands and recorded them, and they're being used in the game. But anyway, this video is running a little long compared to some of my other games, and just let me know what you think. Do you want to know more about this game? I can put links into the description just for links to the YouTube and to the actual website. And if you go, well, I think what I will do is I can do this. So this is their website, the grandtactician.com, the Civil War, and it has all of these links at the side. You got your headlines. It says release date set summer of 2020. I think that is, I'm sure it's available to change if they run into anything, because they initially thought they would release it in 2019, but then it got pushed back to summer of 2020. They enlisted several different things to help them. They actually use Civil War reenactors on some of the videos at the beginning, and if we actually go to the beginning and play it. As you can see, this is a Civil War reenactment scene that they're using, and they, talk to some Civil War reenactors to get some of that video. So, in their own words, I'm not really sure what that is. I haven't really looked at that very closely, but there are links to that. Read our engineer core log, and as you can see, this is Philippe Thibault. He used to be part of Ajod. He's running a blog. That's his picture. And if you read our engineer core log, guest blog, Philippe Thibault, and he just writes how his thoughts, some of his observations. He does it in kind of in character of a Civil War person. And then, of course, he writes a little bit about his own history. And he saw it and he was like, whoa, this is looking really good. But Philippe Thibault worked on Europa Universalis and also a lot of the Ajod titles. And he is now working with Avalon Digital, but he is doing a blog on this game. And even he is blown away by this game. So he has 21 blog articles under his name on this website. So that's something you can read up about it. But just take a look at this game. I think it's going to be really good. I don't want to give away anything, but I'm looking to do more videos of this game videos of it coming out at some point at a later time, just in the run up to it, because I'm completely amazed at the game. And you can see all my history. I like watching F1 Classic and Band of Brothers stuff, and for some reason Back to the Future type stuff's been popping up on my recommended videos, so I've watched a little bit of that. And then War on Zevon is somebody I like to listen to every now and then. But anyway, it's check it out. This is their YouTube website. Here are all the videos. I've watched all of them. That shows just a little bit because I think I watched that on in the Firefox browser as opposed to the Brave browser. And just check it out. I think this is going to be a really good game. I hope it does come out in the summer of 2020, and I'll definitely be doing a Let's Play of it. So let me know what you think. Thanks a lot. I will